There's something electrifying about the journey of Kevin Hart, not just because he became one of the highest paid comedians in the world, but because his story is built on rejection, resilience, and relentless self-belief, the kind of story that hits deep when you realize he didn't start with fame, money, or connections, but with struggle, doubt, and a burning desire to prove himself to a world that initially laughed at him for the wrong reasons. Not with him, but at him, and yet he turned that laughter into fuel, growing up in Philadelphia in a tough environment where his father battled addiction and his mother worked hard to keep him on the right path. Kevin learned early that life wouldn't hand him anything, that if he wanted something, he would have to chase it harder than anyone else, and that hunger became his identity. But the beginning of his comedy career was far from glamorous. Performing under the name Lil Kev, he faced constant rejection. Boos from the audience, empty rooms, and nights where he questioned if he even belonged on stage. Moments that would break most people, but instead of quitting, he studied his failures, analyzed what didn't work, and kept showing up again and again, building his confidence brick by brick, joke by joke, failure by failure, until something started to shift. His authenticity began to shine, his storytelling became relatable, and his energy became contagious. And slowly, the same stages that once rejected him began to embrace him. But Kevin didn't stop there, because he understood something powerful. Success isn't about one breakthrough. It's about consistency, discipline, and evolving every single day, and that mindset pushed him beyond stand-up into movies, television, and business, where he built an empire, not just as a comedian, but as an entrepreneur, starring in major films, selling out arenas worldwide, and becoming a global icon. Yet even at the peak of his career, life tested him again. From public controversies to a near-fatal car accident in 2019 that could have ended everything, Kevin Hart faced moments where everything could have fallen apart. But instead of letting those moments define him, he used them to grow stronger, to reflect, and to come back even more focused, proving that true strength isn't about never falling, it's about rising every time you do. And what makes his story so powerful is that it's not just about fame or success. It's about mindset, about choosing to keep going when everything inside you wants to stop, about believing in yourself when no one else does, about turning pain into purpose and obstacles into opportunities. Kevin Hart didn't just chase success, he chased growth. And that's why his story resonates with millions, because deep down, everyone faces moments of doubt, moments where the world feels against them, moments where quitting seems easier than continuing. But Kevin's journey reminds you that those moments don't define you. Your response to them does, and if there's one lesson to take from his life, it's this: your beginning doesn't determine your ending, your struggles don't limit your future, and your failures aren't the end of your story, they're just the beginning of your comeback. Because if Kevin Hart can rise from being booed off stage to becoming one of the biggest entertainers in the world, then maybe, just maybe, your story isn't over yet. Maybe your breakthrough is closer than you think. And maybe all you need to do is keep going, no matter how hard it gets, no matter how many times you fall. Because success isn't for the lucky, it's for the relentless, the ones who refuse to quit, the ones who keep showing up, just like Kevin Hart did. And that's what turns an ordinary life into an extraordinary legacy. And what makes the journey of Kevin Hart even more compelling is not just the victories the world gets to see, but the unseen discipline that fuels those victories every single day, because behind the sold-out arenas, the blockbuster films, and the global recognition lies a routine built on consistency that most people would struggle to maintain. A mindset that refuses excuses, a mentality that understands that success is rented and the rent is due every single day. And Kevin pays that price willingly, waking up before the world, pushing his body through intense workouts, sharpening his mind, planning his moves, and treating every day like it's another opportunity to earn his place at the top, because he knows something many people ignore, that reaching the top is hard, but staying there is even harder. And that fear of becoming average again, of losing everything he fought for, keeps him hungry, keeps him moving, keeps him evolving, and that evolution is what separates him from others. Because he doesn't just rely on what worked in the past, he constantly reinvents himself, exploring new opportunities, stepping into unfamiliar territories and taking risks that others might avoid, whether it's launching business ventures, building partnerships, or expanding his brand into industries. Beyond entertainment, Kevin Hart has mastered the art of thinking bigger, of seeing beyond the present moment and building something that lasts, something that creates impact long after the applause fades. And yet, even with all that success, he remains deeply aware of his imperfections, openly acknowledging his mistakes, his flaws and his lessons, because he understands that growth comes from honesty, not denial, and that the strongest people are not those who pretend to be perfect, but those who embrace their imperfections and use them as tools for improvement. And this level of self-awareness has allowed him to connect with people on a deeper level. Because when someone as successful as Kevin Hart admits that he's still learning, still growing, still figuring things out, it reminds everyone else that it's okay to not have everything together, that the journey is ongoing, that progress matters more than perfection. And this is where his story becomes more than just entertainment. It becomes a blueprint for life, a reminder that no matter how far you go, there's always another level to reach, another lesson to learn, another challenge to overcome. And the only way to keep moving forward is to stay humble, stay focused, and stay committed to your purpose. Because purpose is what drives you when motivation fades. Purpose is what keeps you going when things get tough. And Kevin Hart has built his entire life around that principle, turning his passion into his profession and his profession into his legacy. And perhaps one of the most powerful aspects of his journey is his ability to inspire others, not just through his words but through his actions, showing people what it looks like to push through fear, to overcome adversity, to rise after failure, and to keep chasing greatness regardless of the obstacles in your path. Because at the end of the day, his story isn't just about becoming a successful comedian or actor. It's about becoming unstoppable in the face of challenges. It's about refusing to let circumstances dictate your future. It's about taking control of your narrative and writing your own story, no matter how difficult it may seem, and that's a lesson that goes far beyond fame, far beyond success. It's a lesson about life itself, about resilience, determination, and the power of belief. And if there's one thing that stands out above everything else in Kevin Hart's journey, it's this unwavering refusal to quit, this relentless drive to keep going no matter what. Because he understands that greatness is not given, it's earned, it's built, it's fought for day after day, moment after moment, decision after decision. And that's what transforms an ordinary person into an extraordinary force. A force that doesn't just succeed, but inspires, doesn't just achieve, but uplifts, doesn't just rise, but brings others along the journey. And that is the true power of Kevin Hart's legacy. A legacy that proves that no matter where you come from, no matter what you've been through, and no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you always have the ability to rise, to rebuild, and to become something greater than you ever imagined, as long as you refuse to give up. But if you look even deeper into the mindset of Kevin Hart, you begin to understand that his success is not just built on hard work alone, it's built on a powerful philosophy about life. A belief system that transforms pressure into purpose and obstacles into stepping stones. Because Kevin doesn't run from challenges, he leans into them, he embraces discomfort. He welcomes the grind, and he understands that growth lives on the other side of struggle, which is why he never allows himself to stay in a comfort zone for too long, because comfort might feel safe. But it kills ambition, it slows progress, and it quietly takes away the hunger that drives greatness. And Kevin Hart refuses to let that happen. Instead, he constantly raises the bar for himself, setting new goals, chasing bigger dreams, and stepping into spaces where he has to prove himself all over again. Because he knows that every new level demands a new version of you, a stronger version, a wiser version, a more disciplined version. And that transformation doesn't happen by accident. It happens through intentional effort, through daily decisions, through sacrifices that most people are not willing to make. And that's where the real difference lies, because while many people dream about success, only a few are willing to pay the price for it. Only a few are willing to wake up when they don't feel like it, to keep going when they're tired, to push forward when everything feels like it's falling apart. And Kevin Hart has built his entire life on being one of those few, one of those rare individuals who refuse to let circumstances dictate their future, who refuse to let fear control their decisions,